If you use the internet on a daily basis, and chances are you do, you probably don't put much thought into cybersecurity. You know, your network connections, the pages you visit, the files you download. You should be thinking about these all the time. Welcome to And Security for All. Your host is Kim Hakim. We're here to help you understand, in general terms, how and why your cybersecurity should be kept in check. Now, here is Kim Hakim.
Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I hope everyone had a fabulous long 4th of July weekend celebrating our great country of 250 years. I know I did, and I'm happy to be back here. I'm Kim Hakim, your host. I'm very excited for our episode today. And before I talk to you about what we're going to talk about today, I just want to let everyone know that we are heading FutureCon. We are heading to Vancouver on Thursday for another packed Canadian event. We are super excited about that event. And it just so happens my guest today happens to be from Canada. He participated with us in our Toronto event that we had back in April. So I have Matt Richardson. He is the head of intelligence from the Canadian OSINT Centre. Today we're going to talk about the cyber frontier, fighting human trafficking and violent extremism. So everyone, welcome Matt. Hi Matt, how are you?
Hello Kim, thanks for having me. I'm doing great, thank you. And before we begin, a very belated happy Independence Day on July 4th to my American friends and to any audience members from the US of A, and God bless the United States of America.
Well, thank you. And right back at you, since Canada Day was just like 3 days before our Independence Day. So I hope you all had a great Canadian Day as well. We love our Canadian friends, and we're excited to head out to Vancouver this week. And always Toronto, I just never get enough time there. I'm in and out, and one of these days I need to stay for a few extra days and explore your city. Definitely love Montreal. Montreal is beautiful. You said you're in the middle of Toronto and Montreal. Is that correct?
That's right. I'm located east of Toronto and west of Montreal, right between them.
Well, that's awesome. Well, before we get started, Matt, it's always good to see you. Tell us a little bit about you and how you ended up working for the head of intelligence, and a little bit about your career path.
Certainly, my career path is what you call unorthodox. So, for anyone on the call that's not sure if there's a space or a place for them in the space that is prevention of online violence, extremism, sexual exploitation, there most certainly is. The easiest, simplest way to put it is when I became a father of myself, I have children. It was like all my priorities, my dreams, my nightmares all changed. And I became rather dedicated to the cause of child safety and the prevention of said crimes. And it was just sort of one of those, I found my way studying open source intelligence, or OSINT. And I saw applications for that to developing internet safety training, because there wasn't a lot of that back when I was doing this, 2014-15 when I started. And then I did that. And then a few years later, an American NGO, non-government org that specializes in supporting law enforcement by literally hunting online predators of children, recruited me to join their organization. And then another American NGO, of course, recruited me to join theirs. And I worked my way up through those ranks to become a director of intelligence and investigations. And from there, the pivot to the Canadian the Canadian Centre for Open Source Intelligence, OSINT, was a natural progression. And that's how I landed where I am today.
Wow. Well, thank you for all your hard work you're doing, because, fighting human trafficking and everything else going on, it's just so scary. And it's interesting. Yesterday I was, I have twins that are my grandsons, and I was visiting them yesterday. And one of them asked me, what's cybersecurity really mean? And it took me for a stump. I was like, I wasn't expecting that. I don't talk about cybersecurity to them. And so my first question to you is, when we talk about cybersecurity, what does it mean to you when we say cybersecurity saves lives?
It's a great and interesting question, because I might be unique in this regard, but personally, I have cybersecurity and the safety aspects are in what you say adjacent lanes. So where I see cybersecurity, it would be more on the protection of threat vectors and threat actors that might include compromising data, finances, and money, breaching networks, stealing intellectual property, or inserting malware for ransomware, where the online safety element is decidedly less technical in my personal experience in the field. I've been doing this for 6 years, so I've been at it a while. And we're looking more when we talk safety. So if it's human trafficking, online extremism, child predators, for example, it's more of a human behavioral thing. So it becomes less technical in that respect. You're looking for grooming behaviors and victimologies, like behaviors that might bring you on the radar of a predator. Apps, people talk a lot about them. Some are what we call target-rich environments because there's a lot of children or minors on them, vulnerable people. So, you hear about Roblox a lot, among others. I'm not picking on them, but those are just target-rich environments. So it's like pre-internet bad guys when I was a kid in the 80s. That's right. I'm an 80s kid. I had phone books when I was growing up, change for the payphone. But the bad guys go to shopping malls and parks and playgrounds because that's where kids were. So the technical side of it, the security element of it certainly has applications in the line of work I'm in. I do work with some rather fantastically talented and passionate people in the industry who, like me, are driven through a passion for protecting children. Many have families. Many do it off the side of their desk on their own time just because they care. And we certainly find things like that might include IP addresses, other pieces of technical architecture that I wouldn't be able to understand or discern. And we're able to work together between the technical architecture and the behavioral elements to put together some pretty fantastic and strong cases that we provide in support of law enforcement.
So how, my question for you, how is technology, and especially AI, and I'm probably grew up around the same time as you when we're talking about phone books, and times have changed, obviously, as you know. I was out in Utah for the last maybe 10 days. We have a ski condo out there, and on July 4th, all kinds of kids, were running on the golf course and playing on the golf course. It's very safe up where we are in Park City. And all the adults were chatting like, we wish this could be every day, because we just can't let our kids, outside. And now that they're not outside naturally, now they're all online, many of them. So how has technology changed the way human trafficking and violent extremist groups operate?
Well, how have they operate? So if we look at any of the three, so if it's human trafficking, if it's child predator exploitation, or violent extremism, it's by nature, because there's so many people online at any given time, it creates a target-rich environment. So a child predator will have access to a very high volume of children. If it's hundreds of thousands or millions, I don't know the math online. Human traffickers are the same. They have access to people they would have never met in real life, probably pre-internet. So they don't have to run into, let's say, a 13-year-old that's running away from home at a Burger King. They could just go online and find them on social media or games and begin to groom them on there, entice them. And then with the extremists, they have the ability to connect people all around the world that have similar interests, which normalizes the extremist and for that matter, the predator behaviors. They trade tips, secrets of the trade, how to get away with it, how to plan and carry out a violent attack in real life. And they support each other just like personal interest forums. Like, let's say, Kim, you and I are on. Let's say, okay, one of my hobbies is a fish aquarium. I have joined like fish aquarium groups, and I can learn tips and tricks for making my aquarium look cool and keeping it clean and all that. They do the same thing. So they have access to each other, shared interest. It doesn't feel scary, or they don't feel weird anymore. They feel normalized and emboldened from it. Where, again, prior to the internet, we had to organically meet people, which took a lot more time. It wasn't necessarily logistically feasible, and it was riskier because when you're out in the real world, CCTV cameras, witnesses, creates a riskier environment. So they've been emboldened. They've had access to more target-rich environment, and they've been able to meet, connect, and support and teach each other the techniques and methods.
So what are some like digital warning signs that parents should be, and educators and any of us should be aware of? And what can we do? What can we do to just make things, I don't even know if I want to say better, a little better, or, a micro dose better? What would your advice be to the parents and the educators?
I would, honest to goodness, with everything I know, and I do know a lot of the worst things that people are capable of, and I'm not afraid, and I don't want you to be afraid. The fact of the matter is if you're watching this podcast today, or after via the on-demand copy, you're already ahead because you care enough, you're invested enough in protecting your children or other people's children, frankly. So off the bat, that means you're a caring and invested person. You're present and engaged. That's a big part of it. Most of what you need to know to protect your children, or teens, whatever, online, you already know from your own childhoods. Like Kim, you and I are like 80s kids. So don't talk to people you don't know. If someone says anything creepy or gross, I say 3 words: stop, block, talk. Stop talking to the person, block them, but don't delete anything, because you might need to provide that to law enforcement. And talk to me or a trusted adult. And if you don't want to talk to me, your father or your mother, speak with Aunt Susan, because we trust her and she can help you if you don't want to talk to us. So give them the ability to go out and do that. The other thing, a couple of the main reasons that teens and children say that they fail to disclose or get help: they're afraid of being blamed. So we have to remind them all the time, we'll always love you. It's never your fault. We will help and support you. And remind them that you're not going to penalize them. So the other reason that comes up quite a bit is they're afraid of losing their technology. And so much of their social lives are tethered through their phones, social media, and gaming accounts. So we want to be clear, we're going to believe them, love them, support them, and importantly help them, keep them safe, but also not punish them for the wrongdoing of others. And then the final point, I can't emphasize this enough. Yes, there is a place for the social media companies. We've seen our apps and so on, we've seen some cases recently in the media that are pretty high profile. There's legislation coming out. There are penalties have been increased. And the companies in some cases are doing more on their own without being necessarily forced to make their platform safer. So that aside, as parents and caring adults, the battle is won at the dinner table or in the van on the way to soccer or hockey practice. Talk to your kids. Ask them about their day. Know who their friends are, what their interests are. Create an open communication and an environment of trust. Because it's not really a matter of if something or somebody might be creepy that they encounter online. It's almost like when, because there's so many of us online. So create the conditions for trust and safety and communication. Anything happens, they'll come to you, and you can intervene and help and protect them.
So what is, in your opinion, now that we have AI and we're seeing deep fakes, and I would imagine that is even escalating, the crime more online. How are we going to ever get ahead of it, especially with deep fakes now, where, a child could have a phone call thinking it's mother, his or her mother, and it's not. What is your organization? What are we doing about situations like this? How can we get ahead of this?
It's a great question. I'm not sure we know yet, because AI is still relatively new. And the AI we knew in 2022 and 2023, we've far exceeded the capabilities now. One area that AI has impacted,
especially with deep fakes now, where, sorry about that, child.
Yes, like we know
that was my bad. Sorry about that.
But yes, like the AI can be misused. It can be used for wonderful purposes, as we know. I imagine we all use it. But there are uses where child offenders have created AI-generated CSAM, which is child sex abuse material. Some of that material has used children either that they found on social media or in their families. And although the act never happened, they put the child into it and used AI to create it. And there's apps that do the same thing where you can, I'm not going to name them, but you can point the camera at, let's say, somebody in your school, in your class, and take a picture, and the app will literally show you what it thinks they look like nude. And there's apps that will allow you to create a scene between, let's say, person A and B in a sex act, and they could be minors or they could be children, real life children that they found a picture on mom's Facebook. So where we've seen an uptick is the sextortion elements. So bad actors have used AI to create nudes of incomplete. Well, everyone's innocent, but people that never provided them, and say, if you don't do live stream with me on FaceTime and get nude or do whatever I tell you to do, or send me money or both, then I'm going to send this picture to your church, to your parents, to your teachers, to your friends at school. I'm going to ruin your life. And sextortions existed before, but it's given the bad guys, the predators, a new lever, and it's a powerful and potent one. The other that we've seen, one of the biggest increases has been sextortion schemes perpetrated by offenders outside of North America, targeting young Western, North American, European young men, enticing them to send nudes. So they're using AI to create fake images of them, let's say, portraying an attractive young woman. Then the boy will send the picture, and then they sextort them. If you don't send $3,500 by this time, I'm putting this photo out to everyone, and I know your dad's name, your mom's name. Like, I really know them. I'm doing it if you don't. And it's been tragic. Like, the stats at the National Center of Missing Exploited Children, or NCMEC, showed this. This is where I saw the data. The volume of it has spiked significantly. It used to be young girls. Now boys are being targeted. It used to always be sexual. Now we're seeing financially motivated. And the scary thing is there have been cases, well documented, you may have heard of them, where a young man has went from being a perfectly healthy, happy, very well-adjusted kid, and within 8 hours, 6 hours of a sextortion attempt, they've taken their life tragically because they didn't feel like there was a way out. So AI has certainly facilitated and enhanced the tools at the disposal of the bad guys for those types of crimes. But again, we go back to make sure your kids are aware they can come to you for help. They'll be believed, so you know there's an out. Last part of your question, Kim. I'm not going to purport to be an AI expert, but I am aware that there are, I believe they call it AI, open AI versus open AI, or AI versus AI. So where the bad people are using, the predators and the extremists are using AI for nefarious purposes, I believe we're going to find that the people on the bright side, the light side of this thing, they're always behind, but we'll be able to adopt AI to counter some of the nefarious activities in time. But I'm not an expert, but I believe we'll get there and be able to counter some of those moves.
Well, it's, obviously a very, very depressing topic, and you're in the weeds of it, which, how do you and how do your coworkers and your peers? I mean, I've had guests on before that we've talked about the subject, and you have children. How do you even do this? I mean, it's kind of a just basic question, but it's such a depressing topic. What keeps you going to fight this fight?
And it broke up a little bit, but I believing is, how do we look after ourselves and what motivates us? Is that fair to say? Is it broke up?
Yeah, I would think that's fair to say. Just, it's such a depressing topic, and it's so depressing to see the stats rise and rise and rise. And, I felt like, oh, great, my kids are grown now, but now my kids are having babies. So now I'm still not away from it. I have to worry about them. So how do you, when you're fighting this fight, and how do your coworkers, keep going and just keep your mental health in check, trying to, fight this fight that is so hard to fight, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, thank you, Kim. And the easier one of the two is the motivation. So the people that I've been blessed and had the good fortune to get to know and collaborate with, like those on my team, the motivation is not an issue. It's just so easy to get motivated when, yes, it's tiring. It doesn't really have standard hours. It's very tiring and exhausting and fatiguing. But when you know what's on the line, And I've experienced myself cases where we've been able to prevent the like worst things from happening, including suicides. We've been able to help law enforcement safely identify and locate and safely recover victims, as well as apprehend predators and perpetrators. And so we've been able to, when you look at the grand scheme of things and you think of the magnitude of that, it doesn't become hard for me to be motivated to stay up an extra 4 hours and push through the fatigue and any of the mental stress, knowing that someone might be alive tomorrow, or certainly, can you imagine if you're being sextorted for 8 months and all of a sudden that bad guy's just gone? No, they're no longer there, and you can live a normal life again. Think about the tragedies you prevent, and families are able to go on and enjoy their lives and enjoy grandchildren and watch their daughter go to prom. I'm getting the chills right now. My arm here standing up. Motivation's the easy part, is what I'm trying to say, my Canadian way, the mental health part, not to be trifled with. So I'm a little bit unique. I've done this for quite a long time, and I did it for quite a long time without any ripple, nothing. But it does catch up to you, and I learned that. So one thing we do is we look out for each other big time. So with those of us in the field, like peer support, if one of my people or one of my agents are like, this fried and burned out, I might say to them, like, hey, why don't you give me your files and let me get the football from the red zone to the goal line, okay? Let me take over. You get some sleep or go out for dinner with your girlfriend, whatever you need. Let me pick up the ball for a bit. I check on them. How are you doing today? And, I'm like, are you feeling good? Are you sleeping? And I check on them. And they do the same with me. Aside from that, like, everyone's different. Personally, I started back at the weight room maybe a couple months ago. I've put on good weight. I'm healthier, sleeping better. That's certainly been a huge help. I also have hobbies like fish aquariums and gardening, vegetable gardening. I do really mellow things when I'm not working because I don't want any more high octane adrenaline. I don't need more adrenaline in my life, frankly. Cooking, I'm a foodie. So I find personal interests like that I can step away from this and just be Matt, not the hunter. Focus on family, focus on my own self, and pull away. And when we close up something that's been like long-term or especially violent, we usually take a little time off just to breathe and recover from the experience. Then we go back in. Everybody's different, but that's how we look after mental health generally. Everyone has different specifics, but self-care, peer support, and remember, if you're tired or not well, you're not going to be able to help anyone, so you got to look after you.
Correct. And kudos to you and all of your peers for the hard work you're doing. And it is making a difference. If it's one makes a difference, so again, going back to the other side of things, like how can cybersecurity companies and what kind of collaboration are you seeing with cybersecurity professional companies? How are they helping you all do your job?
Well, I'm not in their bubble. I've done work exposing some of the stuff that would be discovered on their platforms, but I believe, and I'm not certain of this, I believe that some of them do support each other, like different companies, and it might be a consortium, but I'm not in the club. I don't know. I do know that like the companies that have strong trust and safety teams, strong mechanisms for reporting abuse or harassment, age verification technologies and methodologies, I'm aware that at least in some cases that the companies have shared best practices with each other. But that I'm pretty sure I was told that, because I know companies that have sat or organizations, NGOs, that have been a part of helping them come together and shared their own best practices and things of that nature. So I don't know anything more specific, but I believe there's some cross collaboration and sharing of best practices, but that's about it.
So what can an average person that might be listening to this podcast, and we have so many cyber heroes that have been on this podcast, but what can an average person do to help without putting their self at risk? Because again, if you open yourself up and you're out there I know one individual that's doing some stuff, on the dark web, and he's young and has a young family. And I've asked him, how are you keeping your own family safe? So what would your answer be to those that want to help, but they also want to be careful, because if they have small children, they don't want to be a target?
That's a great question. The answer is there's a lot of risk to this. So it's not amateur hour. Speaking specifically, maybe not as much the child predators, but when I'm speaking of, let's say, human trafficking, there are certainly organizations that can be involved: cartels, organized crime, street level hoods, and gangs. So these are not safe people to be popping up on their radar. The violent extremists, even more so, they do attack people in real life, and that's been a relatively new development. So my answer to that would be, if you want to help, for most of us out there, the best thing that we could do: protect your mental health, protect your physical well-being, your marriage. They call it the thin blue line for a reason. Protect your safety and that of your children and family. Most of us are better suited by volunteering at a crisis helpline or a chat. If you have a local rape or sexual assault center, volunteering time or your expertise to help with their missions. There's a lot of services that are available to people, survivors of sexual violence, for example. And in all of our communities, they're there. There's social workers, counseling services. There's housing, employment. A survivor of human trafficking, they often don't even have their own identification anymore. So there's a lot of ways we can support without putting ourselves in any jeopardy. If those of you out there, like you mentioned, the cyber hero, and you're a bit of a cut above and you want to offer your assistance, I've worked with some brilliant ones and are just awesome. I would suggest looking online for NGOs, non-government organizations. In America, it's those 3C ones. Usually they're one of those. And start reaching out and asking if they might be interested in your services. It's usually on a pro bono. It's not a paid career unless you go into law enforcement. But you can find credible orgs out there that would be delighted to have that kind of expertise. And from there, every case is different, every situation, but cybersecurity skills and expertise, trust me, is always in high demand and well applied in that world, my world.
So what are some, let's kind of shift a little bit and kind of get over on the positive side. What are some, not that there are probably, I hate to use the word positive side, but I want to talk about some of the success stories that technology has directly helped you rescue victims or even prevent future attacks.
Yeah, I could certainly. I remember one. I can't be too specific because it is open, but specifically, there was one that I worked on where I became aware through a platform, which I can't name, that there was going to be a suicide live streamed the following day. And I remember it was a Friday evening, and I had my sons who were still a bit younger, so I was like in dad mode, right? But I know when I see something like that, I've got to. That's a get it done yesterday type of things. It's an imminent threat. So I was on and off the phone with my law enforcement contacts, and I was able to get what I had. And I also had a few people, and I said, "Can you pull this and this?" And I gave them what I had. And I didn't know for a little while after, but I remember I was on my way actually to Ottawa for work, and I got a call that we supported their effort to disrupt the attempt, and the girl was identified. They did a wellness visit and confirmed her safety, and it never happened. And I don't know if the perpetrators have been apprehended or the status of that, but I do know that suicide did not take place and she is safe. That's one of the ones that sticks out. Well, another one is actually, it was an American sex trafficker who for months had been targeting a young Canadian girl. She was 16 or 17 when he began, and she had just turned 18. She was on the spectrum and vulnerable, kind of sheltered, like in that sense. And he literally was sending her plane tickets to fly from the Canadian city to the American one. When her parents discovered chats on the phone, they took the plane tickets and her passport. So the guy sent her a passport application for a 24-hour passport, which you can do in Canada. He sent her the application filled out with a money order, the money to go to the passport, sent her the address. and said, just go get your new passport, and here's new tickets, and here's the form. So in that particular case there, we were asked to support it. I recruited a few of my people, and the objective was pretty simple. So the guy was a known felon. Can we find any evidence of him breaching parole or probation? Parole, because he's like a federal prison. Do we have any more information about the whereabouts and any close associates? So we had the 3 objectives, and we were able to find 2 examples of him breaking his conditions for release from jail, as well as quite a bit about his locations and the people in his circle that weren't necessarily known at the time. In the end, I know the outcome on that one was they got him in the American state, which was what my law enforcement friends really wanted, because the sentence was significantly longer than it would have been in Canada. The girl hasn't had any issues since. That guy's incarcerated with a few associates, and she never flew to the US, where she might have just disappeared forever. So those are 2 of them there, where we used a variety of technologies, real world case studies. We got the bad guy. We helped in the safe recovery of the children that were at risk. And I'll emphasize, we support law enforcement. We don't do this independently. We work in collaboration and support, and there's a lot of training and all that goes into it. But we support them. And those are 2 examples that always come to the top of my mind.
Well, that's amazing. It's good to hear the good stories. And so since AI has been around and other emerging technologies, is that helping to help solve some of these crimes?
It is. I'm aware that there are tools that are at the law enforcement government levels that are closed to the public, so they're not open source, which shouldn't be surprising. There's AI being used out there for national security and such. I have been able to use AI to, for example, copy chunks of like message threads and ask for a summary. But with AI, at least the ones I have access to, because I don't have the paid ones, I still have to go through and edit and vet it. But it's been useful. It's taken what would have been 4 hours and made it a half of an hour in some cases.
Well, that's amazing. And then because, there's a good side and a bad side to all this new technology that's coming out. AI makes it easier for a lot of us, but it also makes it easier for the bad actors, as well. So is there any other like advice that you could give all of us that, something, again, I know you gave us advice about, what organizations to maybe help and all that, but those that have children and they're all on their devices, and, you can put these parent controls on the devices, but is AI getting past that? I mean, you almost want to just rip all the technology out of their hand, but it's just not even feasible anymore, because kids don't even take books to school anymore. Yeah. Kids don't have lockers anymore. I mean, it's all changed. It's all digital.
It can feel overwhelming, but it's a saying that always comes top of my mind. And when I speak with like parent groups and that, I'm like, just slow down. Remember, we parent children, not devices. So you do not need to be Iron Man, Tony Stark, an expert in all technology to protect kids, because your opponent is not an app. It's a bad actor with behaviors and intentions. So it's not as technical as we think. I'm a normal guy. I'm not a high tech person, like certainly not to the extent some of the people you've had on the podcast. But I mean, I remember COVID, and because of COVID and the isolation, I allowed my older son onto platforms, social and online gaming earlier than I would have, because what are you going to do? You got to have some social outlet for him. So yes, I did a reasonable amount of supervision, but before I approved like an app, I said to him, and my ex-wife at the time agreed when I spoke with her first, I can't learn or keep up with 5 or 10 or 20 or however many of these. I can do 3. So when they're younger and you have the authority, by the way, you pay for their phone, their data plan, you do have the authority. They have to do it. That's the way I look at it. That's what I said. You can have 3 apps, but before I allow you to put them on, I'm going to vet them and make sure that they're safe. So I would look them up. Is there strong reporting mechanisms for harassment and bullying and that type of thing? What's the overall reputation of the app? Does it have an abundance of negative media about bad situations and predators and grooming and sextortion? If I get an okay on that one, a green light, The next step I say is let's install together on each of our phones. And then I'm talking with them. Okay, now do you know how to use it? Okay, well, show me how do I use it? Like, show me the buttons, show me the navigation. I just get him to teach me. And I say, okay, let's add each other as friends or contacts. And that's how I did that. And I mean, I went on Google on my phone during COVID. I'd step away for a quick coffee or go outside, just have a little bit of air and quiet. And I would Google an app, and within 10 minutes, like a cup of coffee, I knew if I was going to approve it or not. And I had a pretty good idea how it worked. So those are things that we can all do. And again, it still does go back to just talk to them about their day, make sure you know who their friends are, what are they excited about, what are they worried about, is there anything stressing them out, be engaged in their lives, because then they'll come to you if anything goes wrong. And that is the safest and most surefire course of action, because we can't anticipate every single possible grooming tactic or new and upcoming app or a new add-on to an app. So it's called target hardening. Make the child harder to trick and confident they can go and get help, ergo less susceptible to any of the dangers we experience online.
So some of these things that we see on social media, when you say cough if you need help, or I think there's like a sign if you're on a plane, that if a child does, are these things actually working?
Oh, you mean like the verbal cue in a physical environment?
Yes. Yeah. You got me. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they do. I'm aware of programs in Ontario, Canada, where I live, where the staff at en routes, which are like rest stops with restaurants, where the staff are trained to recognize signs of human trafficking, like indicators. If you have a lot of, let's say, young women and one or two guys, and the women won't look you in the eye and they don't seem to have their own money, train them to know the signs and what to do if they think they spot them. And then part of that is people that are being trafficked can use a code word, and I don't recall what it is, or it's a sentence. And the staff will know that they need assistance. And it might not be human trafficking. It might be they were abducted, or it might be that they're on a date and it didn't go well, and the man's not letting her leave and she feels like she's in danger. And up here too, in clubs, nightclubs, bars, pubs, cocktail lounges, there's a certain drink, I don't remember what it's called. If you order it at the bar as a lady, the staff will intervene, call the police, make sure you're safe till they arrive. So the code words for the airplanes and public transit and so on and so forth, as long as they're universally known, they ought to work. Yeah.
Well, it's a shame that you or I don't know what those codes are. So, so how many other people don't know what those codes are? So I think there's got to be a way that we do a better job across humanity of knowing what this stuff is, because you see this stuff, you go in the restrooms at the airports and it says, if you're being trafficked, call this number. Well, if someone's being trafficked, they're not going to have a phone in their pocket, so how are they going to call that number? I look at that. I travel a ton, as you know, and I look at that sign all the time, and I'm always thinking, well, how is that going to help? So before we have about 5 minutes left before we wrap up, what would your advice be to us as, citizens, how we can just be more aware and try to help it to be two people instead of one person rescued, get those numbers going in the right directions?
Yeah. And I thank you, Kim. And I'll just point out, yes, in the chat, it is called an angel shot. That's the one I was thinking of there. And the staff at the bars, restaurants, the airports, the bus terminals, the hotels, the rest stops do know the keywords better than we do, because they're the ones most likely to encounter them time after time, more than a traveler like you would be doing, Kim. I know how much time you spend in airports.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I go back to take it down to conversations. Don't try to do them all at once. One of the biggest risks, to be honest, isn't necessarily predators or extremists or like that is a risk, but exposure to really violent or disturbing content. So even some of us that are listening in might be able to personally attest to that. I've seen stuff on mainstream social media that I wasn't looking for it, and it popped up and I was surprised. And I know, for example, other platforms, there's really violent content or very brutally hardcore sexual content that can pop up, and the young person may have sought it, or it may have just popped up via an algorithm or been sent to them by a friend. And for their mental health and well-being, again, what do we do if we encounter this type of content? And the answer is, come to me and we'll talk about it, and we'll figure out how we can prevent you from being exposed to that again. Make them always know that they're going to be believed, loved, supported, not blamed. Of course, teach them warning signs, like the classic grooming tactics. Like, again, the 80s, they weren't that different. Bribery. In the 80s, they'd say, hey, if you come with me, I'll buy you a McDonald's Happy Meal, or I'll buy you a sundae or a shake or whatever. Now online, I'll send you V-Bucks for Fortnite. Still bribery. Or I'll send you the phone that your parents won't buy you. Give me your address. Just send me some pictures. Bribery. Or, make you famous. You're very pretty. You're very handsome. I'd like to do a modeling shoot with you. Can we jump on the cam? We'll get some preliminary video and pictures, and we'll share them with our boss, and we'll let you know if we can get you a contract. And so, I mean, that's flattery and fame and fortune. These are the classic grooming lures that haven't really changed. So be confident that you know what you can tell your kids if something's too good to be true, if they're secretive. If you haven't met them in real life, do you really know them? The answer is no. Oh, last quick one. I know we're up on time. Really simple stuff, like my sons, plural. I've never allowed the phone in the bathroom or anywhere private. So if they're in their room on it, doors open, that's okay. But bathrooms are like the worst one, because it's a place that we're comfortable and accustomed to being in states of undress in. So the barrier to being undressed doesn't feel as high in a bathroom. And so, I mean, I'd never let my kids bring the phones in. I remember my older, he'd kill me if he knew I said this. He said, well, what am I going to do, Dad? I have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, I don't know. Read a shampoo bottle. And he's like, well, because you guys did that in the 80s. I'm like, we did. And that's what you're going to do, because you're not bringing that thing into that room. But it's simple stuff like this. Like, I never was terrified. I was not a helicopter parent. I was reasonably vigilant, appropriate levels of supervision according to age and maturity level and their behavior. Yes. But I didn't fear technology. In fact, I embraced it, and I love teaching the positive uses for it. And there are more positives than negatives, despite the media coverage. To be honest with you, I love tech. It's just balance.
I agree. And there's so much that I think parents don't know the capabilities of what they can do in their own home. The internet providers have made it so easy to have the app on your phone, on the parent's phone, and lock out devices, put timers on the devices that they can't be used, from 10 p.m. till, you can, there's so much you can do that I think that the average citizen doesn't know. So hopefully this gets to some people that, I think most of the people that listen to this podcast are obviously in tech, so they know what to do, but hopefully it's something that they can share with their brother, sister, niece, nephew, whoever. So thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for all the hard work that you're doing, just up on the front lines. There's not enough of you. We need what AI needs to do is morph about a million more of you so we can get this under control, So thanks, Matt. Is there any last words you'd like to leave with our audience?
Thank you, Kim, and I appreciate that. And for anybody on the call or anybody that's on live today or watching afterwards, if you're interested in really, really good resources for parents and families, caring adults in general, the National Center Missing Exploited Children, or NCMEC, we call it, headquartered in Washington, has all up-to-date data on stats on prevalence of the crimes, as well as resources like handbooks parents can use with their kids by age group, age cohort, from young to older. So if we're looking for more resources on protecting our families and the vulnerable, the NCMEC has fantastic ones. They're free of charge and easily downloaded and found.
Well, that's excellent information. And if anyone has any questions or needs to get a hold of Matt, you can find him right on LinkedIn. That's how I communicate with him, and he's quick to answer. So again, thank you so much, Matt, for all your hard work that you're doing. And I love talking to people that are trying to make our world a better place. So we'll see you next year in Toronto, and I'm sure we'll have you back on this show again, because I had a million more questions to ask you. So thank you, Matt, for being here today. And everyone else, Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of And Security for All. Please have a wonderful week, and please be safe and secure. And we look forward to seeing you next time.